Hi everyone, welcome. In this video, I want to quickly introduce UI Widget Builder. This is an Unreal Engine editor tool that helps you take a UI design from Photoshop and turn it into real Unreal Engine UMG widgets. So, instead of manually rebuilding your Photoshop design inside Unreal Engine, you can design the UI in Photoshop, export it, and then import it directly into Unreal. The workflow is very simple. You create your UI in Photoshop, and then you run the exporter. The exporter creates a layout.json file and a textures folder. Then, inside Unreal Engine, the importer reads that data and builds the widget blueprints for you. And this is important. This tool is not only exporting flat images, it tries to recreate the actual UI structure inside Unreal. Buttons, text, images, panels, sliders, checkboxes, combo boxes, progress bars, scroll boxes, widget switchers, and many other UMG widgets can be generated from your Photoshop layout. The most important part of this workflow is how you name your Photoshop layers. UI Widget Builder reads your layer names and uses them to understand what each layer should become inside Unreal. For example, if you name a group btn_play, the importer knows this should become a button. If you name a layer txt_title, it becomes a text block. If you name a layer img_background, it becomes an image. And if you create a screen group like can_main menu, or even just name it main menu, the importer can treat that group as a UI screen. So basically, your Photoshop layer structure becomes the base structure of your Unreal UI. You can use simple prefixes like btn_ for buttons, txt_ for text, img_ for images, sld_ for sliders, chk_ for checkboxes, cmb_ for combo boxes, and layout prefixes for containers like horizontal boxes, vertical boxes, grids, overlays, scroll boxes, safe zones, scale boxes, and more. And don't worry, you don't need to memorize all of these prefixes. The full list of supported prefixes and naming rules is available in the online help documentation. So whenever you are preparing your PSD, you can open the help page and quickly check which prefix you need for each widget type. This makes the workflow much easier, especially when you are working with more advanced UI elements like sliders, combo boxes, widget switchers, scroll boxes, checkbox groups, or layout containers. So once your naming is clean, the exporter and importer can understand your design much better. Now let's look at the Photoshop side. Inside Photoshop, you use the JSX exporter. The exporter scans the visible layers in your PSD. It reads the position, size, text, color, font data, alignment, and widget type. Then it saves all of that information into a layout.json file. It also exports the required image layers as PNG textures into a textures folder. So after export, you get one clean folder that contains everything Unreal needs. For buttons, you can also prepare different button states. For example, normal, hover, pressed, disabled. So if you want your button to look different when the mouse is over it, or when the player clicks it, you can prepare those states directly inside Photoshop. The exporter also includes helper tools. One helper can find layers that are missing the correct prefix. Another helper can create or complete missing button states. So before you export, you can quickly clean up your PSD and make sure everything is ready. When the PSD is ready, you click Export. And now your Photoshop UI is ready to be imported into Unreal Engine. Now let's move to Unreal Engine. Inside Unreal, you open the UI Widget Builder importer. First, you select the exported folder. This is the folder that contains the layout.json file and the textures folder. Then the importer reads the layout file and shows you the available screens. You can choose which screens you want to import. You can also decide if a screen should be part of the main widget blueprint, or if it should be generated as a separate widget blueprint. For example, your main menu can be the main widget, or settings can be a separate widget, and pause menu can be a separate widget. And confirmation pop-ups can also be separate widgets. This makes the generated UI cleaner and easier to manage. After that, you choose the output folder and the widget blueprint name. You can also enable options like Safe Zone, Scale Box, Size Box, Add to Level, and other import settings. Then you start the import. The importer creates the Unreal assets for you. It imports the textures, it creates the widget blueprint, it builds the widget hierarchy, and it places the elements based on the Photoshop layout. So now your Photoshop design becomes a real UMG widget inside Unreal Engine. For fonts, the exporter reads the Photoshop font information and saves it inside the layout file. This includes the font name, size, color, alignment, and other text information. Then, inside Unreal, the importer tries to match that font with font assets in your project. If the font exists, the generated text can use it. If the font is missing, the widget is still created, but Unreal will use a default font. So the best workflow is to import your font assets into Unreal first. Then, if needed, use font mapping to connect the Photoshop font name to the correct Unreal font asset. One important thing to remember: generated widgets should be treated as generated output. That means if you re-import and clean the old version, manual changes inside generated widgets may be overwritten. So the best practice is to keep your generated UI in its own folder. Then place your custom game logic in separate wrapper widgets, managers, or other blueprints. This way, you can safely update your PSD, export again, import again, and still keep your custom logic separate. UI Widget Builder is made to speed up the workflow between Photoshop and Unreal Engine. You design the UI in Photoshop, you name the layers using simple prefixes, you export with the JSX exporter, then you import into Unreal Engine and generate real UMG widget blueprints. It saves time, it keeps the UI structure organized, and it helps artists, UI designers, technical artists, and Unreal developers move faster from design to implementation. This is UI Widget Builder, a faster way to bring Photoshop UI designs into Unreal Engine UMG. Thanks for watching.